Hello everyone, welcome to this video or this part of the video where we are going to factorize these few questions. Alright, so without further ado, let's get started. So do take note of these examples. We are going to factorize by grouping. Okay, so for the very first part here, I'm going to break this into two groups. I'm going to see this as the first group and the second group. So for the first group, right, I saw that 2 is actually a common factor between 2 and 4. So 2, I also saw an x. That is the common factor. And I'm left with A and 2B. Not forgetting the negative 2B. Yep, because 4 divided by 2 is 2. I've taken out 2 as one of the common factor. I'm left with 2. As for the other group, the green color group, I am going to take out negative 5. And I also saw that y is a common factor. And once I extract negative 5y out, I would simply left with A. And at this point, you may feel surprised that Mr. Tan here will actually write negative 2b with B remaining. And why then does Mr. Tan write a negative when there is a positive? Because we must always remember that if there is a negative, if I taken out negative 5y out, and when I multiply them into expand, I should get back positive 10by. So negative times negative will give me back my positive. Okay? And once I have extract out the common factor of these two groups, I realize something. A minus 2b will be my common factor. And I'm left with 2x minus 5y. Let's practice on more question now on part B. Again, I'm going to look at two groups. This is the first group and this is the second group. And this become relatively easy. 7 is the common factor, P as well. And I'm left with 2x plus y. Yeah? Because 14 divided by 7 is 2. Next, I would take out positive 2q. This is the common factor of the next green color group. So with 4, I've taken out 2. I'm left with 2. I still have my x and my positive y. And therefore, final answer, I saw that 2x plus y is now the common factor that I am going to extract out. And I'm left with 7p and positive 2q. And let's move on to part C. And here, in this case, I would have my 2c minus 6 as one group. Negative c plus 3y as my second group. 6 can divide by 2. 2 is the highest common factor among the two. I'm left with c minus 3. I am going to take out negative y out. And I'm left with c You might wonder why Mr. Tan write negative 3. But we must always remember that if I expand out, meaning this is negative y multiplying my negative 3, it does give me back my positive 3y. Okay? So that is the reason why I write c minus 3. And from here, c minus 3, this whole bracket will be my common factor. And I'm left with 2 and negative y. Part D, where we would have 3pq minus 3p plus 9 minus 9q. And I do see something. For this particular example, I saw that the q. And now, let's proceed on this question. The very first thing I saw that is common among all the terms. Yes, there is a common factor among all the terms, and that is the number 3. So that is the very first step that I'm going to take. And after I take out 3 as the common factor, I'm left with pq minus p plus 3 minus 3q. So there is this 3 that is always outside. And now, with the remaining 4 terms inside, then I'm going to break them out into 2 groups for me to continue to factorize. And I saw that I'm going to do something interesting. I'm going to rearrange and write as negative 3q, positive 3. Because I saw that the term with the q comes first for the blue color group. Now, this will make things slightly easier for us because then I saw that p is the common factor. And there is this. I'm left with q minus 1. Yes, because p times negative 1 will give me back my negative p. For the next green color group, I'm going to take out negative 3 and I'm left with q. You would see Mr. Tan writing negative 1 because negative 3 multiplied by negative 1 will give me back my positive 3. And once we have that, we still have the 3 outside. Then I saw that q minus 1 is the common factor. And I'm left with p minus 3. And this is the answer for part D. Let's move on to part E. Part E is straightforward. So we would have 2p as the common factor, and I'm left with m plus 8 divided by 2 would be 4. I'm going to take out negative n as the common factor, and I'm left with m plus 4. In case you are wondering why Mr. Tan write a plus, Well, it is because with negative n as the common factor, when I take it out, if I were to expand them, this will give me back my negative 4n. Okay? And so we can see that n plus 4 is the common factor. I'm left with 2p minus n. Let's move on to part F. Alright, this is straightforward as well with a catch. Okay? Because I saw that a is the common factor, I'm left with x plus y. Then I look at negative x and negative y. On the first look, that does not seem to have a common factor. But this is negative 1x and this is negative 1y. So what happens if I take out negative 1 as the common factor? I will left with x and positive y. Oh, because negative 1, if I were to multiply positive y, that will give me back my negative 1y. And from here, I could continue to factorize easily now with x plus y as the common factor. And I'm left with a minus 1. Yeah? That's a second version of doing things, which I'm going to share with you now. If I were to rearrange the term with ax minus x, positive ay minus y, then I can see that my x will be the common factor, and I'm left with a minus 1. My y is the common factor. I will left with a minus 1 as well. And you will also see that it does give me back my same answer. This is the equivalent version of the top. Okay? So the only catch is this particular method 2. I do something. I rearrange the terms. Okay? That is one thing that you can do if you are kind of stuck. Okay? And part G of this particular example. For this question, I am going to continue the approach. Okay? So for the first part, I saw that the highest common factor, notice 24 and 32, I could divide by 2, meaning I could extract out the 2, but that is not the highest common factor. What we are really interested in is extracting out the highest common factor. So in this case, it's 8. And I'm left with 3r and 4s. I'm going to extract out the q, negative q, and I realize that again I will have my 3r and positive 4s, because again Mr. Tan is really careful. If I were to multiply this out, they should give me back my negative 4qs. And from here, we can then see that 3r plus 4s is the common factor. I'm left with 8 minus q. Okay, so the key thing is we must extract out the highest common factor. Moving on to part H. Let's see. Looking at things as it is, okay, I can see that if I do break them into these two groups, the common factor here will be 4m, and when I do that, I will get 2n minus 1. Why is there 1 there? You might wonder, because if I were to expand and simplify this, I must get back my negative 4m back. As for the other green color group, well, there's no common factor, so to speak, but how about this? If I take out negative 1 as the common factor, what will happen? I will have my 2n minus 1, because again, if I were to expand out, I should get back my positive 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. And from here, I could then get that 2n minus 1 is my common factor, and I'm left with 4m minus 1. Next question. Okay. For here, let's have a look. It might be interesting to expand and simplify this, but wait a minute. If we observe the green color group, we can see that if I take out negative 2p out, I could actually get a plus 3b. Negative 2 as the common factor. Also have the p as the common factor. I'm left with a plus 3b. Again, you might wonder, why is there a plus? Because if I were to expand and simplify this out, negative 2p times positive 3p will give me back my negative 6p. Yep. And so from here, we can then saw that the a plus 3b is the common factor, and I'm left with 3 minus 2p. Part J. It's an interesting question. Okay, so before I do anything, I saw that for this, there is actually a common factor 3, yeah? So I'm going to just copy the question as it is first, before I do anything. And I'm going to extract out 3 as the common factor, and I'm left with x minus 3y. And then from here, I can just simply take out all the common factor now. If I compare 2 and 4, I know that there is a common factor 2. Also, x minus 3y is also a common bracket, meaning common factor. That's what I'm going to extract out as well. And I'm left with p here. Minus 4 is not 4 because I've extracted out 2, meaning I will have a 2 here. I still have 3 down there. And so final answer, it will be 2 times x minus 3y times p minus 2 times 3 is 6. So this particular question, I know that probably the first impulse is to expand and simplify first, but no. If we could factorize by taking out common factor, that may just prove to be a more elegant way of solving problems. Part K. Alright. So by now, once we have reached this particular part, you would be able to see that if I see the green group do not have any common factor, we could actually write as 1 times that whole group. Because I do see x power 2 as the common factor, and I'm left with x plus 1, and therefore here I'm going to write it as 1 times x plus 1, so that when I multiply this out, 1 times x, I will get back my positive 1x. 1 times 1, I will get back my positive 1. And the reason for doing so is because that will then allow me to see very clearly x plus 1 is a common factor. And I'm left with x squared plus 1. And for the last example of this particular video, for this particular question, the very first thing that caught my eye is that I saw a as the common factor across all the terms. I'm going to take out a as the common factor across all. I'm left with 2bc minus 3b plus 2c minus 3. Next, we'll kickstart my factorization by grouping. So this is the first group, and this is the second group. And from here, I saw that b is the common factor. Left with 2c minus 3. And I also saw that the other group, there's no common factor. But applying what we have tried thus far, I'm going to rewrite it as plus 1 times 2c minus 3. And we can do that, right? Because 1 times 2c will give me back my positive 2c. 1 times negative 3 will give me back my negative 3. And the reason for doing that is because then I can see 2c minus 3 as a common factor. And I'm left with b plus 1. And with that, we have come to the end of this particular example that has many questions about factorization by grouping. Yeah. So if you like this video at this point in time, do give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And let's move on to more questions on this topic.